I'm going to wait for the chat to build up before I get started. How is everybody's day? For those of you that don't know, I'm just starting my YouTube venture, or adventure.
You're back on there. All right, hold on.
I think my last one is now available. I just got an email saying the last live's now available on the channel, and Tammy just told me she watched it.
It is, because it just came up on my thing.
And I'm on this live telling you that.
I'll go back in first. So I'm going to share it to the...
Just waiting for the numbers to build up. If you hear a noise in the background, that's my pet birds. Come in and say hello. Follow me, please, and give this live a like and a share. I really appreciate it. It helps my helps my channel grow. Sometimes I jumble my words up. Today we'll be talking about government conspiracies and what they have planned for us. Once the chat builds up, we'll get into that. Whoever's entered the live, announce yourself down below and say hello. If you hear that noise, that's the birds. I normally go live on TikTok, but there's a campaign I'm a part of that tried to help me lift a ban, but that wasn't successful, so I jumped over to YouTube. But it's okay, because I'm going to try to help my YouTube channel build. So it's a blessing in disguise. Now we've got 6 people in the chat. That's good. The numbers are starting to build. So, for those of you, oh, Jesus is the Lord. Well, in my opinion, Jesus' name is Yeshua, because the letter J didn't exist until the letter J didn't exist until 1524. That was the 16th century. He definitely was, what could you call it, spiritual, that's for sure. He was a great teacher. I'm not taking that away from him. But his name wasn't Jesus, it was Yeshua. Welcome everybody that's joined this chat. For those of you that don't know, now this is for educational entertainment purposes only, Mr. AI. So when I use terms like Nazi and Adolf Hitler, I'm not saying it to offend anyone. Because I know sometimes that can be a sensitive subject. In 1933, then Adolf Hitler and Germany started the Nazi regime. Their political party was known as the National Socialists. They say that NAZI came out of National Socialists, and that's where the term Nazi came from. But that can't be further from the truth. NAZI actually stands for Nautical Army of the Zionist Institute. Nazis are actually Zionists. That's what they are. So, In 1906, would you two birds be quiet? In 1906, the Nazis were actually trading with extraterrestrials. The extraterrestrials were giving the Nazis advanced technology. The Nazis were giving the extraterrestrials human biological data in return. In other words, human bodies. Don't mind that noise in the background. My birds are being pains at the moment. Sorry about that. So 1906, the Nazis were trading with extraterrestrials. 1933. In 1933, when the Nazi regime started, the Nazis were already on the moon. They got there with the advanced technology. I appreciate the continued comments, Thunder Game clips. I've actually got no issues with Jesus Christ at all. I just say that his name is Yeshua, because the letter J didn't exist till 1524. Hello, Art Boy. I'm explaining a lot of government conspiracies that's hiding behind everybody's backs and has been for a very long time. Nope, I don't live in Perth. That's right, you told me that last week. Yes, I did. I did, Tammy, I really did. So 1933, the Nazis were on the moon. In World War II, there were soldiers and civilians that swore they seen bell-shaped structures that were flying around like UFOs, and they had Nazi symbols on them. I don't trust the government at all. Not 1%. It's full of lies. Lies after lies after lies. Layers and layers and layers of red tape. This is how they stop people from finding the truth. They create so many different diversions and so many different distractions. Governments actually plan 500 years in advance. Yep, that's me. I'm the same Justin. So, World War II, people swore they seen Nazi symbols on bell-shaped UFOs. They swore they seen them. Now, here's the interesting part. In World War II, the war ended in Japan when the United States of America dropped the atomic bomb. Because there's two of them. You had the little man and the fat boy. All right, then, Troy, answer me this. How long has the United States government been reverse engineering extraterrestrial technology? Can you give an honest answer on that? So, the war ended in Japan in November of 1945. But 3 months before that, in August of 1945, 1930s, you're actually right. I'm impressed. You actually are right. They have been doing it since the 1930s. So Adolf Hitler faked his death. Now this is for educational entertainment purposes only for Mr. AI that's listening. He faked his death. In August 1945, they said that he committed suicide, but he did not. They won't release an autopsy report. They won't tell anyone where he was buried or anything. I mean, they probably would have made up some bullshit excuse like, you know, they disintegrated him, like what's it called when you burn them? Crematorium, cremated him.
Cremated you.
They probably say something like that. Yes, he did in the 1970s. I heard another source, it was 1983. But either way, the 70s/80s is very close. Oh, yep, that makes sense. It involved Italy and Germany, which is why they sided during World War II. He died of cancer in Argentina in the 1970s. It was 74/76 era. Now, that would make sense. I also heard there was a bunch of bounty hunters that went down to Argentina. They weren't there for him, but they swore they seen someone that matched his image. But because they weren't for him, they didn't do anything about it. They went there for other war generals that were hiding out in the area. Welcome everybody who's like to join the chat. A craft with a biopilot was found in Italy and they gave it to a German military manufacturer. That doesn't surprise me because when World War II ended, what happened was one of Germany's punishments was they had to give a shit ton of money to the UK and a bunch of Zionists. And those Zionists were German astrobiologists, German astrophysicists, German scientists, you name it. They were a bunch of the most intelligent people on the planet. And that's how America made it to the moon in the 1960s, because they reached out to the Germans. But the footage they showed us was fake, obviously. The moon footage they showed us was fake. But they actually did go there. How you doing, Miss Brownhouse? How you doing? Gamer Girl Watson 6504, welcome. She's in here. Yep. So yeah, when Germany apparently lost the war, one of their punishments was they had to give a shit ton of money to the UK and a bunch of Zionists. And the Zionists were the most genius astrobiologists, the most genius astrophysicists, the most genius scientists, you name it. They had the best in the world. So what happened is you'll probably notice in the great space race between the United States and Russia, how Russia was leading the United States with everything because Russia created the rocket equation. Russia created the very first satellite and put the very first satellite in deep space. Russia put the very first animal in deep space. Russia even put the very first manned crew in deep space. But what I find ironic is how America made it to the moon before Russia did. That's what raised suspicions about everyone saying that it was fake, especially the footage, because the footage was fake. But they actually did go there. They just didn't want us to see what they found, because those same German astrophysicists, German astrobiologists, and German scientists, they went to work and built a spaceship that was designed with reverse engineered extraterrestrial technology. And that's how Neil Armstrong and his two friends made it to the moon. Because it wasn't just one of them. Everyone talks about Neil Armstrong. There was three of them. And they all set foot onto the moon. There wasn't one hovering around the moon waiting for everybody. That didn't happen. That's a lie. They all landed on the moon. They all got out. And here's another thing that's going to surprise most people. Yes, this is common knowledge once you leave the civilian sphere. Yep. So, when they landed on the moon, what happened to you, may you ask? And this is pure hypothesis, but this is a bunch of information I've found from what I consider as reliable sources. When they landed on the moon, they didn't need their spacesuit. They were ordered to take it off. And who were they ordered to take it off by? United States, Russian, and German military that were already there. They were ready on the moon. And apparently, there were reptilians on the moon as well. Draco reptilians. Now, apparently the Draco reptilians and some of the soldiers were flipping the bird. In other words, to say, yeah, F you, we're already here. Moon cheese. And that's why when they jumped back in their spaceship and started heading back to Earth, people got a brief message, not the full transmission. They only got a brief transmission of when I think it was Neil Armstrong, but it wasn't him. It was one of the three people in that spacecraft heading back to Earth. They said, "Mayday, Mayday, we've got a problem. We've got a problem." And yeah, you can guess what that problem was. There was already life there. There was already structures there, buildings there, new and old. There was ancient structures there, like something was there thousands of years before us. That's why Neil Armstrong and his two people, when they went into interviews, the interviews were heavily controlled. And Neil Armstrong only done like a handful of interviews, 5 or 6 interviews, maybe 10 at the most. And his interviews were heavily controlled. The questions that everyone wanted to know were never asked. Because the Central Intelligence Agency has a heavy hold on the mainstream news network. And when it comes to mainstream people conducting interviews, the CIA has power to go into any news network across Western civilization and change the story. They can go in there and go, nope, you're going to change it to this, or go, nope, you're not doing it at all, and shut it all down. The Central Intelligence Agency does this. And here's the scary part about the CIA. Yeah, the headquarters is in Langley, in Virginia, but the main base for the CIA comes out of Geneva, Switzerland. Yeah, thank you for coming in to listen. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. So where was I?
Moon landing. Something to do with the moon?
I was saying, the CIA.
Yep.
That's right, the CIA. Sorry about that. Lost the track of my thought. So the CIA have the right to change everything anytime they want with mainstream media. They can create little stories inside news networks and change them any way they fit and confuse everyone by having the news network saying different things. So it's similar but different. It creates more distractions, more diversions. Here's a good example about the CIA. This is going to get right up there with the conspiracy theories, but this is the truth. Not exactly. Obviously, I welcome theories, but the fact of the matter is there were NHI artifacts destroyed or abandoned literally across the moon, which at the time would have been bad for religions. Yes, I agree with that. I agree. If they told the public the truth, it would have been a detriment to the society that we created. But one day the truth's going to come out. They can't hide it forever. And their agenda changed over time. Their agenda went from protecting the secret so society doesn't have to change. Now the new agenda is much more malicious. The new agenda is a reverse engineering program where they're going to fake an alien invasion. But they're the ones with the reverse engineered tech. It's going to be man-made UAPs or NHI. And they're going to attack humanity and then blame it on the aliens. So when the real aliens come down, what are we going to do? We're going to attack them, and then we're going to end up meeting our demise because we don't have anything that can match their tech. It doesn't matter what stuff we reverse engineer, what we research into, that's fine. We haven't been doing it for thousands of years like these extraterrestrials have been. They've mastered this stuff. Some of them have been around for billions of years. They have mastered this for a very long time. But, yeah. The CIA, what happened with them was in 1973 and 1974, the Pioneer 1 and the Pioneer 2 satellites were put out in deep space. They were put there for many reasons. There wasn't just one specific reason like most satellites. But one thing it was put there for, that they covered up with humanity, was because they wanted to discover the luminous planet X/Nibiru. In the ancient texts, it says that Nibiru passes Earth once every 3,600 years, and every 25,200 years it brings the brown dwarf star that it circles on the other side of the solar system with it. That's right, we've got a second star in our solar system in the Oort cloud called Nemesis. That's where the theory of Nemesis comes from. So, when Pioneer 1 and 2 discovered Nemesis, the interesting thing about that was this. The planet Nibiru was 50 AU away from us at that time. That's 50 astronomical units for anyone that doesn't understand what that is. That's the distance from Earth to the Sun. When they discovered Planet X, what happened? The Washington Post put out a report about it. It said Pioneer has discovered Planet X. Well, only a week later, that report was scrapped and no one heard about it again. Yeah, yes, it took a week to take it down, but you got to remember back then they didn't have internet. With the internet today, they can take stuff down instantly. They didn't have that. That's why it took a week to scrap the story. In 1983, the New York Times reported that the IRAS satellite, it stands for Infrared Astronomical Satellite. The Infrared Astronomical Satellite in 1983 was designed to produce helium with heat. And when it heated up, the helium would expose everything within like a 1 or 2 light year radius around it. And when they heated up that helium in the IRAS, they discovered an entire solar system inside our solar system. They discovered that in the Oort cloud, the outer reaches of our solar system, there's a brown dwarf star and about four or five planets orbiting around it. And one of those planets was Nibiru. And Nibiru orbits around Nemesis and our star called the Sun. Why does this matter? Because Nibiru is now in our solar system. Right now. It entered our solar system, I think it was 2003. And it's making its way through very soon. I've heard rumours about 2028, about Nibiru possibly coming through. I've heard rumours about 2032 or 2035 and Nibiru possibly coming through. But either way, it's coming through very soon. It's been drip-fed to society so as not only to hurt as bad, and established religions can slowly adjust and embrace the concept of the other life like a slow pull of a band-aid. Yep. There was a extraterrestrial race known as the Anunnakis or the Atlanteans. I prefer to call them Atlanteans because in my theory, it's just a theory, the Anunnakis and the Atlanteans are the same people. But the term Anunnaki is a general term that covers about 10 or 12 different extraterrestrial species, while the term Atlantean covers the specific type of Anunnaki. The Atlanteans came down to Earth 450,000 years ago. This is in theory, just a hypothesis. I don't claim this to be fact. But the Atlanteans came down to Earth 450,000 years ago to mine gold. They had a working class civilization with them called the Ujiji. The Ujiji were getting paid in gold and women. That was the economical system, so to speak, because they didn't have physical money like we do. And thank God for that, because physical money is worthless anyway. Now, because they weren't getting paid enough in gold and women, 200,000 years through their venture, so that's 250,000 years ago, the Ujiji and the Atlanteans went at war. There was a nuclear war on Earth, Mars, and Luna. Luna is our moon. They all survived the war because there was 2 nuclear wars. That was just the first one. Then about 205,000 years ago, they had a second nuclear war. This war ended up resulting in the GGs eventually getting up and leaving the solar system and leaving the Atlanteans to do the work all for themselves. After the second nuclear war, that killed the surface of Mars for the second time. The surface of Mars has been killed more than once. And it also killed the surface of Luna, which is our moon. Earth almost died from the nuclear war 200,000 years ago, the ancient nuclear war, but Earth survived it. Just. Mars and Luna weren't so lucky. Now, the Atlanteans were stuck to do the work for themselves at this point. They were stuck to mine the gold for themselves. They were stuck to build the pyramids for themselves. And stuck to do all the other labor and everything was going on Earth, all on their own. So what did they do? They went back to the drawing board and said, well, we need to genetically engineer a hominid to do the work for us. So two brothers, Enlil and Enki, those two brothers, they went back to the drawing board and they said, all right, there's already this species here called the Homo erectus. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the Homo erectus DNA and we're going to splice it and mix it with the Atlantean DNA and create our own hominid species that is a slave species, and that's all they know. So they wouldn't even know that they're slaves because they're genetically engineered to do that. That's how us human beings were created. We're genetically engineered, in theory, by the Atlanteans. Then the Atlanteans, or should I say the human beings, so we are now the Homo sapiens. The Homo sapiens were put to work to do the work for them. That's how the human beings came into existence. But your government doesn't want you to know that. They've known about this for a very long time. They've deciphered the ancient tablets many times. Zachariah Sitchin wasn't the first person to translate the tablets. He got the information from other places.
Right, you can watch a bit more before you go to bed.
Zachariah Sitchin got the information from a long series of people over thousands of years. There was heaps of people that translated those tablets, but they hide that from history, you see. They don't want you to know that. Because our government have been reading those tablets, and every bit of technology they've created, where do you think they got the ideas from? From the tablets. The technology we've got is not new. Yes, human beings did create our technology. I'm not saying we didn't. But we rediscovered it by reading the ancient tablets and then went from there. That's how we invented our technology. It was something that already existed. Our mathematical system, the English language, everything. It already existed. There was every other language you speak today. It was already there. They already knew about it. We just pretty much followed their construct because we learnt from them. The human beings learnt from the Atlanteans because they genetically engineered us. That's what happened. In my hypothesis. Still watching. Thank you so much. That's okay. That's okay, man. That's fine. Just come in when you can, Troy. That's cool. So my hypothesis is we're genetically engineered 200,000 years ago. And also, another official docs for that civilization mark them as their handbaggers, but I think what you're talking about is those NHI. So in theory, in my theory, 25,000 years ago, there was a great flood. Now, there's been more than one flood in Earth. There's always natural disasters. That's how resets happen and civilizations get wiped out but still survive. So we reset and start basically redeveloping civilization again. It happens all the time. But sometimes you get massive floods. And there was one particular flood I'm talking about. The Bible likes to call it the Great Flood or Noah's Ark. But I don't believe that story. The story that I believe, which is my hypothesis, is the Great Deluge, which happened 25,000 years ago. Whoops, dropped my phone. Follow me, Troy, if you can. I'd like to see if you put up any content as well. I'd like to watch it. You've got a lot of interesting educational things to say. For everybody listening, what I'm telling you is just my hypothesis. I can't back any of this up with any facts, but I do stand by what I say. So 25,000 years ago, an event happened that I call the Great Deluge. And I'm not the only one that calls it that. There's many people through history that called it that. I got that name from somewhere else. It's not the name that I called it. So the Great Deluge was an event when Enlil had enough of humanity and wanted to wipe us out. So Nibiru was due to do one of its rotations past Earth, one of its orbital cycles. Every 3,600 years, Nibiru passes Earth. And Enlil deliberately, with frequency-based technology, guided Nibiru closer to Earth. It was about 30 or 40 million kilometers away from Earth. Maybe far away for us, but very, very close in cosmic terms, especially since Nibiru is like rumored to be 10 times the size of Earth. So the theory is they brought it in close and created a gigantic flood. There was earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, cyclones, tornadoes, you name it, volcanic eruptions. It was all happening. I always do that when I'm laying down and it hits me in the face. So, what happened in my hypothesis was Enki, who was Enlil's brother, he did not want us humans to be eradicated. He wanted us to survive. But he did understand there needed to be some type of reset for balance because our species was going out of control. We were kind of like a failed experiment. So, when Enlil brought Nibiru closer to Earth and created the Great Deluge, what the Bible knows as the Great Flood, what happened was Enki created an anti-gravitational craft. It was not a craft known as Noah's Ark, and Noah didn't exist. But Enki did, and he created this anti-gravitational craft, and he put 2,000 people. Stay on topic. I can't keep up with fact-checking you and searching for results at work. Sorry, bro. I'll try to keep on one topic. I'll explain the Great Deluge and then I'll get back to government conspiracies. It does connect with it. I'm explaining how they knew about all of this, but they didn't tell us because they got all of this from the ancient tablets. They translated it all themselves. And that's how the government got the idea for creating technology. It was all rediscovered. Yeah, we did create the technology ourselves, but we got the idea for it from the ancient tablets. So, Enki created an anti-gravitational craft. I'll try to get through this part as quick as I can. And he saved 2,000 people in my hypothesis. And he also puts tiny little capsules of DNA of animals in there. So in the Bible, it says that there was 2 of every animal on that raft. Literally impossible. But what Enki done, he's put tiny little capsules of DNA. Because you've got to remember that Atlanteans were highly advanced in theory. if they actually existed, but I think they did. So, in theory, they had tiny little capsules of DNA, and there was one male of every animal and one female of every animal. Take that elsewhere. We're trying to discuss conspiracies here. So then Enlil and Enki and everyone decided they're going to jump in their spaceship and go above Earth level, well away from Earth, and waited for the Great Deluge to finish. Then they went back down. And when they went back down, there was this area that wasn't affected by the flood that Enki directed the craft to after the flood finished. And when Enlil went down there, there were smoke signals coming up from the landmass, and discovered there was 2,000 surviving human beings down there. Enlil already knew that his brother Enki had something to do with it. Enki and Enlil had a big dispute over it. But Enki eventually convinced Enlil to let human beings thrive and populate the planet. And the Anunnakis will leave. They will leave and let us populate the planet. And then see how far we can progress in our own advancement. And eventually they are going to come back and check to see what we've learnt. And apparently that time of them coming back is very soon. Now I'm going to get back into government conspiracies again. Because when I say very soon, this connects to Enki. Has anybody here ever heard of the Boogosphere that landed in Booga, Colombia in South America just recently? Sorry, Troy, I'll stop. The Boogosphere is this spherical device. Hang on, I can't search with the handbagger folder in the system for these details, but a lot is restricted or retracted on my account. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, you did watch it with me the other day. Yep. The Boogosphere was this spherical device that was seen in March of 2025, so this year in Booga, Colombia. It was flying around on its own, no jet propulsion system, no wings, and no one was seen anywhere near the vicinity with some type of device controlling it. When the Boogosphere hit a near power line, it almost seemed like there was an electromagnetic pulse that activated and knocked the Boogosphere out of the sky, and it hit the ground. There were a bunch of civilians that found it, and a few scientists were near the scene as well. And there was one scientist that picked the Boogosphere up, and he said when he picked it up, it weighed 2 kilos. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, that 2 kilos became 60 kilos, and he had to drop it instantly because it almost put his shoulder out of whack. Almost pulled his shoulder out of its pocket, out of its socket. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. So, anyway, there was a bunch of scientists that are now holding that Boogosphere, and a private military, a hired private military, are protecting it as well. Well away from the United States military, well away from them. Because apparently the United States of America have got hundreds of these Boogosphere type things in the possession in deep sites and in black sites and deep black sites. Because there was this military personnel that used to be a part of the Air Force that came forward. He's retired, he's a whistleblower, and he came forward and said they've got heaps of them. So my theory is they were keeping track of everything that was going on with satellites and everything, and making sure they knew the locations of all these Boogospheres, and they were taking them down and they were taking them hiding away from civilization. But for some reason, this Boogosphere, this very particular one, escaped that. And now a private military has released the details to the public. There is an official report that you can download on the Boogosphere. An official report. It's available to everybody publicly. And just recently, in October, late October 2025, they came forward with the Boogosphere in a glass cabinet. And you can find that video on YouTube. There's a guy named Dr. Stephen Greer. He took a metal sample of the Bugosphere and he came back and said, yes, this is most definitely an anti-gravitational device. That's not me saying that. That's Dr. Stephen Greer saying that. Look it all up for yourself. Now, in the document, it said this. And I've got the document here, but I can't show you because I'm on my phone. And the document's also on my phone. So one day I'll use my laptop and I'll pull the document out of my phone and show everybody and read it out. Just to add into the NHI craft popping up recent as a few decades ago, is written here that it coincides with quantum computers as they interfere in other dimensions and act as beacons. Give the document reference so I can cross-reference. I will. I might be able to find it right now, actually. I'll find it on my laptop. I'll try to pull that document up. While I'm pulling the document up, I'll keep talking about from what I've read. It says in the document that it was traveling in a way that it was suspicious of being anti-gravitational. I'll tell you in a second. Right, where did I find that? I wonder if I can do this. I can't jump out of the live to go check it, but I'm going to try and find it. Because I'm pretty sure I sent the document to a few people on Facebook, so I'm definitely going to find it. Okay, I'm pretty sure I sent it to my auntie. I'm 100% sure I did. Okay, where are you?
He's just got a mouse.
I can't do anything about that just yet.
Well, he's in your room with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright.
I'll see if I sent it to my sister. I think I did. Oh, what the... Anyway, so while I'm still talking, I'll explain a little bit more and I'll find the document. So, for what they were saying, the Bugosphere had symbols and ancient text on it. Now, mainstream media was saying that the Bugosphere... Hang on 1 second. The mainstream media was saying that they can't translate these texts because it doesn't match any ancient text they've seen on the tablets. But Dr. Stephen Greer and his group of people disagree. They say that they did translate the text and it said this specifically. Now, this is them saying this, not me. I may believe what they're saying, but it doesn't mean I'm the one that said it. It said on the text, according to Dr. Stephen Greer, that there's a great catastrophe coming. But don't worry, you're going to be okay. And what's funny is in the ancient text, it said 25,000 years ago, there was a great flood called the Great Deluge because of the arrival of Nibiru and the brown dwarf star that follows it. And in those ancient texts, it also says that once every 25,000 years this happens, which means it's due to happen in our time. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it's going to happen next year or the year after. I'm not even saying it's going to happen in 10 years. I'm just saying it's due to happen in our time, apparently. We're definitely going to find out. And I've actually got pictures I've been taking of the moon with a smartphone and zooming right in and getting the right hertz when I zoom in. And when you look at the moon, when it's in the right spot of the sky, you can see this red blotch right next to it. And that's not a reflection. Because if you see a reflection and you shake your phone, the reflection goes all over the place and changes direction. If it's an actual body, an actual physical body, they don't move all over the place like a reflection, do they? This red blotch wasn't moving one bit. And it was a gigantic red blotch too. Now, it's my hypothesis. I believe that is Nemesis, the brown dwarf star. Yeah, it's red, but brown dwarf stars look red in appearance when you're looking out the atmosphere of Earth. Our atmosphere makes it appear that way. Right, I'm going to continue trying to find this document while I'm talking. There's heaps of people that are walking away from mainstream news and reporting on the extraterrestrial problem. There's this Australian reporter named named Ross Coulthart. He used to work for Channel 9, then he jumped to Channel 7, and then he left mainstream news altogether. And now he's on News Nation and reports on the extraterrestrial problem all the time. He's always on there doing stuff. He's on YouTube right now. You can watch him, News Nation. Ross Coulthart, look him up. He's got a lot of good things to say. All right, I'm still trying to find this document. Just bear with me. It is very far down on my Facebook. We have a file on him. You talk about Dr. Stephen Greer. Or Ross Coulthart. Did you talk about Ross Coulthart? I just clicked on what you meant because that's the last name that I mentioned. Yeah, Ross Coulthart. Yep, the presenter. Oh, this is really, really far down. Did I send you the document?
Is it the one with the 1,000,000 pages?
Yeah, that would be the one. Here we go. There's the pictures. I'll show everybody the pictures if I can. I'll try to turn my screen around on my live to see if you can see it. There's the Booga Sphere. I'll click into one of the images. There it is. As you can see, they're the symbols. That's the ancient text. And these symbols here are like half moons with little circles inside of them. That means something. I don't know what, but it means something. And apparently this ancient text here was translated and it says there's a great catastrophe coming, but don't worry, you're going to be okay. Right, I'll see if I can...
Yeah, what's all this?
Let me have a look. No, that's not it. Yeah, if you can find that graphic, that'd be awesome. Even if you, I don't know if you can send it to me on YouTube, but I don't even know if you can.
It's all the stuff about that.
Hey,
this stuff here is all about that. There.
You sure? Give me a look.
Yeah, man. Fucking read it properly.
Oh yeah.
Fucking on 9 pages of the fucker.
Yeah, this is Dr. Stephen Greer's report, though.
Oh, that's what you sent me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to keep trying to find it. Keep that handy, though.
Yeah.
Keep it handy. I might need it. Yeah, there's a lot of things that people can't explain. Actually, is the link up there in the actual post? There have to be. You'd think I would put it there, wouldn't you? Go to see more. Why else? Why would I not? Wouldn't make sense. Apparently I didn't. What an idiot. I inboxed a heap of people, but I can't access it on my laptop. How stupid is that? Okay. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'm going to be right back. I'm not cutting the live. I'm just going to be unavailable for a quick second while I find this. I'm back, everybody. I'm back, everybody. All right. Are you there, Troy? According to this, let me have a look. Because I've got the report right here. Empirical validation of a unified anomalous physics, a quantitative retro-engineering of the boogosphere. Abstract. Empirical data from the recovered boogosphere artifact represents a set of quantitatively measured yet physically paradoxical phenomena. The object exhibited a drastic apparent mass shift of 8.1 kilos, generated silent, non-ejective propulsion, and sustained a 100-watt endothermic signature. A triad of behaviors that are mutually exclusive under standard physical laws. This paper performs a rigorous empirical retro-engineering of the sphere's dynamics to find a single, self-consistent physical model that can quantitatively reproduce all observations. We demonstrate that a model based on an internal network of engineered inclusions generating 8.1 kilo negative mass of effect is the only framework that succeeds. So just for context, says here they're called handbaggers because they were depicted holding handbags in ancient civilization art, and they were also incorrectly labeled deities, the Anunnaki. The Atlanteans, same thing. Anunnakis, Atlanteans, same thing. I truly believe that when they say that Atlantis had fallen, Atlantis wasn't a city. I believe there was many ring cities that fell, and I believe the Earth was called Atlantis. That was why they said Atlantis has fallen when the Great Flood happened. That's just my hypothesis. Okay. Feel free to keep jumping in my lives though, Troy. You can give some information out as I'm saying it. That's actually quite handy. As I keep telling everyone, this is my hypothesis. Okay. Crucially, the physics... Alright. Also, the US DoD is tasked with gathering intel and suppression of intel as their arrival is accelerated and began from introduction of quantum computing and their proliferation from 2010 and onwards. Oh, their arrival. Yes, I knew they were coming. I kept getting inside of my head, Anki's coming back. I don't know if anyone believes this, but the universe talks to me. High gov up docs. I believe that. Trust me. I'm one person that would believe that. I've been researching this stuff for a very long time, and there's so much stuff that they've been lying to us about that sometimes you find that the real truth is much less believable than the crap they feed down our throats. Crucially, the physics governing this system is shown to be a direct application of the axiom of topo-temporal reality, a theory itself derived from empirical measurements of fractal scaling and other complex systems. The success of this unified framework in matching the entirety of the empirical data suggests the boogosphere is not an anomaly, but the first physical validation of a technology based on the fractal geometry of space-time itself. Imagine another dimension messing with Wall Street computers. Yes, I agree with that. We live in the third dimension, obviously. There is a theory going around that we are slowly transcending into a 5D realm, and that's why people are seeing glitches in the timeline, because they're experiencing 4D glitches, because we're jumping from 3D to 5D. Some people have seen planes in the sky. Some people see planes in the sky that are not moving, and that don't move for up to 30 seconds at a time, that all of a sudden they start moving again. Bet you the people in the plane didn't notice that, but the people down below are. In my opinion, that is 4D glitches, because we're going from 3D to 5D in my hypothesis. So, yeah, we definitely, our universe is definitely made up of dimensions. Extraterrestrials come through these dimensions all the time and mess with our basically what they do is they mess with our aura or our magnetic field. That's how they feed off of us, and they can feed us negativity, positivity, or neutral feelings. There is no limits. I believe there's already extraterrestrials here right now, and they've been doing this to us for a very long time. And if people don't know what these extraterrestrials are called, they're known as Draco reptilians. That name circles in myths, legends, stories, everything, but I don't believe it's a myth. I believe it's true. I believe they're a shape-shifting extraterrestrial that can disguise themselves as human. They could be walking past you in the street when you're going somewhere and you wouldn't even know. I believe that the British royal family are extraterrestrials. Can I prove that? No. But they're very suspicious in how they handle things. They handle things very similar to the way the Atlanteans did in the ancient texts. That's what stands out to me. So going back to the Boogosphere, the document actually says SSRN-5340113. It was released by P. Morcillo. P. Morcillo. There's this place called USAM. They're a metal identifying company. I've got another document of them. They were trying to identify the metals on the Boogosphere, and there were so many metals that were just, they couldn't explain. Living NHI on Earth, there is 4 countries, about 20, about 80 biopilots have been found. This isn't confirmed, but it's likely no one has been able to communicate with them or keep alive long. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know the very first ET that they did capture, as far as I'm aware, there could have been more before that, but the first recorded one was called EBE, EBE, Extraterrestrial Biological Entity. That's what they named it, and it consumed food like a plant would. And so they didn't know how to survive it, how to keep it alive when it got sick. They even hired a professional botanist to try to save his life. And that professional botanist, even though he didn't successfully save Eve's life, he became a professional extraterrestrial expert. 80 biopilots in NHI craft, 20s of, oh, yep. That's just what I read anyway. Because I've got this document right here. I will turn my screen around and see if people can see it. The Secret Government, the Origin, Identity and Purpose of MJ12. And it's released from here. Yep, that's what it's saying right in front of you. Yep. Archives of UFO Research. That's the place that released this document for you to see. And there's the title. The Secret Government, the Origin, Identity and Purpose of MJ12. So yeah, I track stuff down like this all the time. There's a guy named Billy Carson. Check out his YouTube channel, Forbidden Knowledge, if anybody doesn't know. He's someone, if you want to know about what's going on around the world, he's the one that you want to contact. He is that well-traveled, it's not funny. I don't have the doc you have, or at least I can't search for it. Is there a way that I can send it to you? Because I can send it to you, because when I clicked on the link, it came up. So it still exists. Actually, I might be able to type it in here. I'll have a look. I will have a look. I might be able to type it into this chat. I'll go back to my Facebook and look at the link. Oh my God. Yeah, that's what I wanted. All right, just bear with me for a second. All right. How do I do this? I'm just going to jump out the live again for a second and find something out. I'll be back in a second. I'm trying to find a way to share this link. So you can have it for yourself. They're making it difficult. If you've got a social media account that I can send you an inbox to, that would help. Because this is available publicly, what I can send to you. So I'm not breaking any rules. I'm not sending you classified information, nothing like that. It's available to everybody. So if you want it, give me some type of method to send it to you. Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Well, there is the link. Cool. No worries. All right. Let's go back to this Booger Sophia. I'll read some more for everybody. One, introduction. The Booger Sophia is a smooth metallic orb about 30 to 40 centimeters in diameter, recovered in March 2025 near Booger, Colombia. Within hours, it exhibited 3 verified anomalies. 1. It appears its apparent weight dropped from 10 kilos to 2 kilos without ejecting mass. 2. It propelled itself silently along non-ballistic trajectories. 3. It absorbed heat at 100 watts, remaining 15 degrees Celsius below ambient for 3 hours. Simple explanations. Hidden thrusters or phase change materials cannot account for all 3 effects simultaneously. Negative mass appears only in specialized quantum settings. Particle accelerator phase space, Bose-Einstein condensates, and never has been engineered macroscopically. CT scans revealed an internal network of optical fibers and micro inclusions. All right, I'll just find out where I was. Yeah, including advanced microengineering. All right, we propose a unified model, a lattice of engineered negative mass inclusions controlled by a photonic neural network under the axiom of topo-temporal reality. This framework allows matter to interact with a fractal space-time structure, producing inertial shielding, non-ejective thrust, and topological heat sinking. So, when it says axiom of topo-temporal reality, and it says about a fractal of space-time itself, my hypothesis on that is this: we live in a fractal holographic universe. I believe everything is made up of a hologram, and the hologram is surrounded by tiny little cells that fluctuate in and out of existence into in basically at the feet of infinity. They come in and out of existence really fast, these tiny little cells. So they're born, they die, reincarnated, die, reincarnated, die. That's what all the cells of the universe do. And those same cells surround our bodies, and they're all through the universe. So we are technically a hologram that's been fractally created by cells that fluctuate in and out of existence throughout the universe. Two, methods of model parameters. Our analysis combines precise post-impact measurements with the axiom of topo-temporal reality framework, integrating modern theories of negative energy phenomena. 2.1, empirical constraints. We constrain the model with mass chronology. And there's a bunch of stuff there you're probably not going to understand, so not going to bother reading it out. But you basically get the basic point. This boogosphere is not from this world. It's acting like an anti-gravitational craft. And it had all these ancient symbols on it. For those of you that are wondering what I'm talking about, I will show you. That is the boogosphere, discovered in Buga, Colombia, back in March 2025, and was reported to the public. Even on YouTube, you can find it on YouTube, in October of 2025. They're saying it's the very first extraterrestrial spacecraft they've discovered. I don't think it's the first. I think human beings have got their own crafts they've been reverse engineering. But whatever. At least they've released something to the public that we can actually go, yeah, things are actually about to change. Or, yeah, things are not what they've been telling us. Or, yeah, we're finally about to make a new discovery. Either way, something new is coming out of this instead of the same old shit. What do you think? What does everybody think watching this? What's your opinion on the boogosphere? You got a comment? I'm going to be cutting this live very soon. I'm going to come back on later. I've got lots more to discuss. I'm going to be coming live on YouTube a lot more often. Oh, you're not sure? That's fine. It is a very complex topic to take on board. Especially when you find out they've been lying to us this whole time. I mean, this ain't a new discovery. They knew about this the whole time. But at least we know something now. At least there's something physical that we can look at and go, hey, you know what I'm saying? But people should have figured that out from the start. They should have known something didn't sit right. It was right in front of their faces. Look at the pyramids, for example. We can't even find a lot of that material around the world that the pyramids are made from. And the pyramids have been standing for thousands of years and have experienced floods, or natural disasters, you name it. They've probably experienced fires as well. And they're still standing. Yes, they do look like they're a little bit worn out on the outside. But any structure would be after thousands of years. And the Great Pyramid of Giza is not 4,000 years old like religion, what most religions would want you to think. It's over 30,000 years old, probably closer to 40,000 years old. It's very old. And it's not the first pyramid either. And I don't know why they call it the Great Pyramid. There's a pyramid in Antarctica that is a lot bigger than that. They'd recently discovered a pyramid under the ocean bigger than the Pyramid of Giza. And that pyramid under the ocean is still standing. So if that water around that pyramid dissipated and went away, that pyramid over time would dry out and would still look the same as it did when it first got built. Except for a little bit of debris falling off of it over time, whatever. But it still almost looked the same. Yeah, right, definitely wow. So when you take that into concept, people should have known from the start there's a lot more going on than what they're telling us. They say that these pyramids, maybe not all of them, but these pyramids used to have a chunk of gold at the top of them. Erosion from water caused at end of Ice Age on Sphinx. Yep, that makes sense. Definitely. So, look at all the other ancient artifacts around Earth. All the statues that we don't even know how they got there. Now, I know that people like religious groups like to make up how they got there and like to claim it for themselves. But these ancient ornaments and ancient structures were put there thousands of years before your religion started. And that's not a direct attack at anyone that's religious, by the way. I've got no problem with anyone following any religion. That's your choice. And I'm not trying to steer you away from your belief. I'm just explaining my point of view. They say that human beings were on Mars in the 1960s and re-terraformed the planet. They say it was the Nazis that went to Mars because while the rest of the planet's going to the moon, that gave them a good opportunity to go to Mars. A distraction because they were already on the moon in 1933. And rumor has it when they got to Mars and the moon, they seen ancient structures, ancient pyramids, ancient buildings, ancient artifacts. That face you see on Mars that NASA likes to say is just an anomaly, it's just a mirage, you can find that exact same face here on Earth. Because they built the same monuments on both planets, because the Atlanteans, aka the Anunnakis, were the ones that built them. With help of the GGs, and then when the GGs left and left the human beings, or they genetically engineered us human beings. So when they genetically engineered us, we helped them after the GGs left. Ice ages are cyclic, like the seasons. They come and go. As they occur, civilizations are destroyed. Humanity manages to survive each time. We've been through 4 now. Larger structures survive. Yes, I agree. Yep. These pyramids survive it all. Typically, power generation is the most important thing in those end-of-life civilizations, and those are what survives. Yep. Now, for those that didn't know, there was a chunk of gold on the top of these pyramids. The chunk of gold's not there now. And there was a bunch of stuff taken out of the walls of the pyramids too, to cover up the truth. These pyramids done many things, not just one. These pyramids were a power station. They conducted power from the magnetosphere and the ionosphere. Natural power. Another thing these pyramids do is when Earth faces the perihelion, so when Earth is facing the sun, that's called the perihelion, okay? And then the other side of the Earth is facing directly away from the sun, that's called the aphelion. When a pyramid, a specific pyramid, is exactly 180 degrees facing away from the sun on the aphelion side, that pyramid is facing directly at a constellation. These pyramids are a map to our Milky Way galaxy. Now, if they were built by human beings, how would we know any of that information if we haven't been out there before? Because we didn't build them. We may have helped in some ways when they genetically engineered us, but we didn't really help that much with them because the pyramids were built with sound and vibration technology. They played these harmonic tunes through something that looked like a flute. And when they hit the right frequency, it lifted these blocks, cylinder blocks up, and then through the frequency, they guided the blocks to the exact spot they needed it to be. And that's why the pyramids are built so perfectly. We would not have been able to build a pyramid. Us human beings would not be able to build a pyramid, even back, especially not back in those times, without some type of technology helping us. There's no way. The precision's too perfect. Us human beings have never built something that perfect, ever. All the blocks are built with perfect precision. That stands out. Yeah, definitely, Tammy. You're starting to see it, aren't you? It doesn't mean I think people should leave their religion. I'm just telling you my hypothesis. And for those who don't know, this isn't the first time we've got to this point. Every time we got to the quantum computing stage of civilization, the NHI rock up. Yes, I agree. I do agree with that. I've heard a rumor, though, we're living in the times where we're more awake than ever. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I've heard we've got a lot of help. And I've heard that this time we are going to beat it. This time we're going to come out of it okay and become an interstellar species. Of course, we need a lot of healing. We need a lot of acceptance. We need a lot of people to come together and start working together instead of fighting with each other. We need governments to stop treating civilians like absolute crap. But here's the kicker on this. We need to stand up against the government for this to happen. Because they're the ones that know about the secrets and they're standing between us and the secret while we think they're working for us. But they're not. We're their slaves while they protect the secret. President Truman was the one that got into business with some army generals and navy admirals and started the secret. The Navy, the United States Navy, they got that idea. Actually, we're going to go back further than that. The British Navy, the British Imperial Navy that eventually became the Federal Navy, they're the ones that got the idea from the Atlanteans about that. Because the term Navy actually means Nautical Army of Volunteer Yeomen. N-A-V-Y. Nautical Army of Volunteer Yeomen. The term volunteer yeoman comes from working class civilization. And for those who have been listening from the start, you probably heard me say earlier that the Igigi, who was the working class civilization for the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were the nautical army. They travelled through the stars in their advanced spaceships. When they came down with the Igigis, the nautical army and the volunteer yeomen were there. Nautical Army of Volunteer Yeomen. Both the Atlanteans and the Gigis put together are the Navy. The word nautical does not mean just travelling across ocean waters like they make you think. the term nautical is used in deep space as well, mainly for shorter distances. So if you travel from here to Jupiter, you sometimes you measure that in nautical miles. But that's where the term nautical came from. I'm not saying that the Atlanteans called themselves the Navy. I'm saying we got the idea from them, and we called it the Navy. But that's what essentially it was. And so in the World War II era, when President Truman came together with all these army generals and navy admirals and said we're going to protect the secret, this is what happened. Curtis Wright, this company called Curtis Wright, owns the Navy. Wright-Patterson, ever heard of the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base? Wright-Patterson owns the Air Force. The Air Force used to be a part of the Army, called the Army Air Forces. So in World War II, the Air Force was Naval Aviation and the Army Air Forces. How you doing, Chico Saint? How you doing? What's up? So, Wright from Curtis Wright created Wright-Patterson, and they bought the Air Force off the Army Air Forces and created the United States Air Force. And they'd done that deliberately so they could protect the secret. They were using the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base to hide a lot of this technology. That's not the only base. There's hundreds of others, but that's one of the main ones. Swallow the red pill, Chico. Swallow the red pill, Chico. So, that's how they started protecting the secret. And they made it very hard for anyone to gain access. There's only one way you can gain access to the facilities. Number one, you have to be part of the military, very high up, and they have to trust you. But number two, to have access to the secret technology underneath these Air Force bases, you have to be a part of the Department of the Navy, very high up, and also in conjunction with the Atomic Energy Commission. So you have to be high up in the Department of the Navy and be high up in conjunction with the Atomic Energy Commission. That is the only way you're going to access this secret technology and all the alien bodies underneath these Air Force bases. And isn't it quite funny how it's an Air Force base, but you can't even access this if you're a part of the Air Force unless you're a very highly trusted general? Because even a lot of Air Force generals don't even know about the truth. These people that work for the Air Force, believe it or not, they get their paychecks from the Department of the Navy. That has to say something. It says to me that the Navy owns the Air Force. That's what it says to me. If Curtis Wright owns the Navy, and that same name, Wright, Patterson, owns the Air Force, and the Department of the Air Force is receiving their checks from the Department of the Navy, what does that say to you? I'm interested in how often you're correct in your statements. When did you hold the government positions with the privileges to know this stuff? I can't find anything about you on internal staffing docs. It's because I've done my own research, lots of it. The universe speaks to me. Now, I can't prove the universe speaks to me. How am I going to prove that? But I believe the universe speaks to me, and it leads to me to all these certain places online to find reliable sources and reliable documents. I've spent a lot of time separating lies from the truth. It doesn't mean everything I'm saying is 100% truth. I'm just saying I've spent a lot of time separating lies from truth. I've learned how to follow leads. So if I look at a website and say, oh, okay, let's say, for example, that Bill Gates is working with a bunch of people with the food industry, for example. were you in clairvoyant programs outside of Australia? No, I've never been outside of Australia once. I want to. I really want to. But next year, I'm possibly going to New Zealand and possibly going to Thailand, and who knows where else. I want to get. I want to go to Egypt and look at these pyramids myself, and then try to find other pyramids around the world as well. I want to get well traveled and discover this stuff. No, no one's contacted me. I found this stuff myself. I was following these links. Stuff got really scary. Don't get me wrong, it got really scary. I almost stopped researching. But then I thought, there has to be light at the end of the tunnel. This stuff has to make sense. So I kept searching and searching and searching. Then I came out the other end and realized that everything is not as scary as they make it be. The scariest part is if they find out you know the truth. So, when I was on these websites, just say, for example, I'm looking up Bill Gates and the food industry, because he apparently wants to save us with the food industry, but really he wants to destroy us. I go down to the bottom and I have these stamps down the bottom. All right. And the stamps I have to most people look like nothing. Click on those stamps. I'll have to try to show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to go to a website, for example. I'm going to look up NASA, okay? NASA is a good example. I'll show you exactly what I mean. So here's the NASA website, right? When you come down to the bottom, this stuff down here means a lot more than what you think it does. It's good to read full media, private policy, Freedom of Information Act, No Fear Act. Read it all. But that's not what I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to find stamps, for example. So I'll try to go to another website. I know of another good one, the Octagon Group from Switzerland. Right now, I'm not finding the example I'm trying to show you. What's another good one? Anyway, what I'm trying to say is when I got down to the bottom of the page, good evening, man. The universe I do feels me brings me to my channel tonight. I believe it did too. The universe brings us together all the time. When you get down to the bottom of these web pages, you'll see these stamps. Most of the stamps look like a circle, and inside the stamps will be a symbol, like a company name. Most of it look like charity names or some name that looks really boring or something like that. Don't ignore it. Click on that. It'll take you somewhere. Then when you follow that link, you will go down and find out more. And some of those links will have their own stamps down the bottom too. Follow those stamps. This starts to take you on a journey where you start finding out more than what you ever thought. That's how I started finding out the truth, was following those stamps. Then it led me to other things. I'm trying to think. Let me gather my thoughts. I can think. The stamps, follow the stamps, find out more. That's right. Corporation Acts. It led me to a Corporation Act. When I started reading the Corporation Act and the human trafficking side of things, if you read it properly, it doesn't exactly say that they can't do it. It gives them guidelines on how they can do it and get away with it. Then when you look at the ancient tablets, you realize that our whole existence is an illusion. Our names are an illusion. My name is Justin, all right? My name starts with a J. But my name technically doesn't exist because the letter J didn't exist until the English alphabet till 1524. The letter J was used to be a Y. So my name should be Justin or Justin. When you go back further, you will realize this, that a lot of these corporations, when they write the Corporation Acts, they use words that meant something else in ancient times. I should have been, yeah. I believe so. I'm hoping eventually someone on YouTube, someone very important, notices the stuff I'm saying and, you know, and takes it to heart, because this needs to be pushed out. So when you look at the ancient meanings of these words, and you have to go back before biblical times to find out the truth. They use the biblical time as a blockage because they try to act like nothing happened before that. But it did. You've got to go way back before that, at least 30,000 years, and use that language. Then you interpret that into the Corporation Acts. You'll realize the Corporation Act says something completely different from what you're reading. But both versions make sense. That's how they disguise it. And that's how they get away with stuff like human trafficking. Thank you, everybody that's came in tonight. I really, really, really appreciate it. I'm going to jump off here in a minute, but I'm going to jump back on live on YouTube here again in about half an hour or an hour. I'm trying to break it up. They have secret seekers in US government programs, or maybe you've already been assessed as low and looked over by them. That we have a fair few in Oz that were taken over. Yeah, I agree with that. Yep. Yep. All these high up companies too, like the CIA and the DIA. For those who don't know what the DIA is, that's the Defense Intelligence Agency. The CIA gets a lot of their information from the DIA. And other high-ups like MJ12, MI6, MI5, British intelligence, all of them, Russian intelligence, all of it is put there by design to stop us from learning the truth. They act like it's for intelligence to protect their country. No, it's intelligence to protect the ideal. But thank you so much for tuning in. I'm about to jump off. Troy, if you want to follow me, you can, and I'll follow your channel too. Everybody that's watching, click the notification bell so you know when I'm going live. I'm going to start posting videos on YouTube very soon too. Thank you so much. You are gifted. Keep at it. Eventually they'll contact you, but you'll be reduced to an asset if you accept the offer. And if you don't, you'll be shunned and lose a lot of mental ability. Forewarning you. I do agree with that, and I've got to be very careful about that. The offer sounds so good. And thank you so much for jumping on my chat. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you again soon. And thank you so much for giving me that information. You give me a lot to research into. That's good. All right, I'm going to see you all in the next live. It's going to be about an hour's time. Not very far away. All right, much love, everybody. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.